Good evening, everybody. My name is Nathaniel J. Carrasco. It's an absolute pleasure being here tonight with all of you beautiful people. Raise your hand high if you've ever experienced massive amounts of failure. Good. I like to see that. You see, I feel you. I felt the same way, and here's what I found. In life, if you want to become wildly successful, you have to fail your way to the top. And let me tell you my story. I was raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, also known as Sin City. It's very easy to do bad things in Sin City, and I started stacking my failures early in life, not purposefully. And man, if a mentor is somebody that's supposed to help you do good, I ended up getting a negative mentor. Basically, this is someone who's done bad for so long that they want to teach you how to do bad as well. And I can remember this person teaching me about drugs and how to do them, how to sell them. And I can remember getting one of my first failures, a misdemeanor in 7th grade for drug paraphernalia. I'm not proud of it, but at the time I just kept racking up failures. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I was so ambitious that I graduated my misdemeanor into a felony for distribution. And what came after that was getting expelled from middle school and having to attend one of the worst middle schools in all of Las Vegas, and 6 months of juvenile probation, having to meet a probation officer every 2 weeks, drug classes, court appearances, and a lot of heartbreaking scenarios with my parents. Well, shortly after that, the school district decided to give me one more shot, and unfortunately, I was not ready. I ended up attending high school, and before my freshman year was over, I got in trouble again, and I ended up getting caught up again in just drugs and getting more charges. And before my freshman year, I ended up getting expelled from high school. And what came after that was another term of juvenile probation with the same probation officer, with the same parents I had. My parents thought they were messing up in life because I was messing up, and this was life. I ended up attending one of the worst behavior schools for high school students, and I made a very poor decision my sophomore, junior year when I decided to become a high school dropout. And when I became a high school dropout, what led after that was very, very hard jobs, because nobody wants to hire someone who didn't have a high school diploma. No one wanted to hire somebody that was expelled in school, both middle and high school. So that led to working very hard, laborious construction jobs. I ended up working for waste management, hanging on the back of a garbage truck, picking up your trash in the front yard. And I was thinking, did I miss out? Did I mess up on the good life? Here I was, 19 years old, expelled in middle school, expelled in high school, no diploma, no ambition. Anytime I thought about school, it just didn't register with me. I had poor results, and I was broken. And I learned the difference. At 19 years old, I went deep into myself, and I learned the difference between winners and losers. And what I learned was losers hate change so much they're willing to lose. But winners hate losing so much they're willing to change. And you know what? At 19 years old, I was resolved to change my life. I did not want to live like this anymore. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And at 19 years old, I went on a mission to look for a mentor that could teach me. And I ended up finding a mentor named Nicholas DeLory. Nick was my cousin. He had phenomenal results, 6-figure income, beautiful company car, beautiful wife, and his father as well, Stephen DeLory. What they taught me was the information that goes in your brain affects your results. And Stephen Delory, he does this excellent example. He goes, if you listen to enough rap music, gangster rap music, consistently for a long period of time, you will end up, instead of driving your car 10 to 2, you'll start doing this thing right here, you know. He goes, Nate, if you start listening to gangster rap music consistently for a long period of time, instead of wearing slacks with a belt, you'll start sagging your pants. He goes, Nate, if you listen to country music consistently for a long period of time, instead of wearing a regular baseball cap, you might start wearing one of those big old cowboy hats, you know? He said, Nate, if you listen to country music consistently for a long period of time, instead of wearing a regular belt, you're going to wear one of these things right here. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, yeah. That big old belt buckle that sits right there. He goes, you might not be driving a Honda hatchback, but you might drive an F4 150 if you listen to enough country music. And what Stephen asked me, he said, do you want to become successful? I said, yes, sir. He said he put me on a program called RLA. It stood for Read, Listen, and Associate. He gave me the best books to change my results, change my information, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettger, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, and I was hungry. I would read these books very often, consistently, and the second thing was listen. I started listening to audios over and over again, and I turned my vehicle into a university on wheels. So anytime I was driving somewhere, I was listening to something very motivational and powerful and informative. Third thing is, he said, you need to surround yourself with winners. And the fourth thing that I did was I started to run, just recreationally, but you know, it developed very nicely. So at 19 years old, I meet Nick. His father, Stephen, they're giving me all this information, and I wanted to leave that life that I had. I wanted to go as far away from those results as possible. I was hungry. I was resolved. I was reading, listening, associating, and running. Well, after a couple years, you know, I ended up going to these local races, these local 5K races, because my dad said, you're getting good at running, and long and behold, I found 2 new people who became my running mentors, and that was Shawana White and Ornthal Striggles. They were excellent racers, excellent runners, and they saw something in me. And so for 2 years, I'm listening to Nick and his father teach me about business and life philosophy, and I'm listening to Shawana and Ornthal about running. And I can remember after 2 years, a day that changed my life forever. We just got done with a workout. We were sitting at Starbucks. Ornthal looked at me and he said, Nate, have you ever imagined competing in the NCAA? Well, I looked at him and I said, Coach, I don't play basketball. And he goes, no, you moron. It's not basketball. It's college sports, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. Have you ever imagined competing in college? And I said, no, I've never imagined competing in college. And I'll tell you why, because I'm a dropout and I never imagined that and I never played sports. And Ornthal looked at me and he said, I don't care about your past. How fast can you get your GED? And I was hungry. I was hungry for success. I said, Coach, I can start tonight. And after we left that Starbucks, I went on YouTube, how to get your GED for dummies. And I started learning everything I needed to learn in all those subjects in order to get my high school equivalency diploma. And long and behold, 3 months later, I took the test and I got the diploma. I got it. And my coach and I, we were looking at a local college called in Newberry, South Carolina, called Newberry College. And we took that diploma and we took my running results from all these races and said, we would like to apply. And when I applied, magical things happened. They said, yes, we'll accept you. And on top of that, because of my running times, they said, we are going to give you a 5-figure scholarship to compete and represent our school in the NCAA in cross country and track and field. Oh my God, this was a blessing. I felt like this was my second chance for greatness. And when I went into college, I knew what it was like to be a loser, and I wanted to feel like what it was like to be an absolute winner. And so, long story short, when I went into college, 4 years go by, and I ended up graduating student body president, recipient of a proclamation documentation hand-delivered by the mayor of the city, commencement speaker. And when I was the commencement speaker, it was very special because the last words that I said to my class were the very last words that Mr. Washington said to Les Brown when he was a kid. I said, for my speech, to the graduating class of 2022, remember this: you are all blessed and highly favored to reach your dreams. Go in peace and change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a Cinderella story, and it changed my life forever. If you have a vision that God has given you, go in your Bible. It says, without a vision, we all shall perish. And remember, when you receive failures, let that be the chip on your shoulder and as a reason for you to win and not an excuse for you to continue failing. I believe in you. You got this. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Bye-bye.